Hey guys, Chris here. Just wanted to apologize for the long gap of time between this and last upload. School's been pretty serious, so I've been trying to keep up with classes and homework that my professors assigned me, so bear with me guys. I was honestly only able to get this video done now and not next week because my university gave me 2 days off for fall break, the 7th and 8th of October, and I just worked on the video on my break. I also wanted to let you guys know that I worked on this video for over 20 hours. It took a lot of time, hard work, and effort, so if you guys could remember to hit the like button to show your appreciation, that would mean the world to me. Also, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more Grappler Baki content. We also do other manga and a bit of gaming, so if any of that interests you, subscribe and become a member of the family today. Anyway, back to our irregularly scheduled Grappler Baki stuff. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Fighter vs. the Maximum Tournament, a video where I pit Grappler Baki characters against different tournaments throughout the series, like the Maximum Tournament or the Raitai Tournament, and see how they'd fare. Today we're going to be looking at the original Nomi no Sukune and how he would have fared if he had participated in the Maximum Tournament. We saw in last video that Nomi no Sukune II, the modern descendant of Nomi, was far too powerful for anyone in the Maximum Tournament, save for maybe possibly Shibukawa and his Aiki, but even then, Nomi II was way faster than anyone at that time period of Grappler Baki. This time around, things should be more fair, since Nomi doesn't have the same scaling his descendant has. To further explain, Nomi II has gotten into fights with the likes of Oliva, Baki, and even recently Yujiro himself. Someone that can compete at that level cannot be beaten by the Grappler Baki cast at such an early stage in the series. The original Nomi, however, has not been shown to be able to fight people at that level of strength. His only two indications of strength are his grip and his beating Keihaya, a man that could shatter stone with his kicks and manhandle large animals like bulls. That's manageable for the level of power shown in this general section of the series, but can Nomi no Sukune do as well as his 100 metric ton grip offspring? Or will he fail to clutch the win and get his grasp on the champion belt? Cue the intro.
Why do I feel like I linger between the words to say the words to remember?
So we'll be doing this similarly to last time. Using the roster for the Maximum Tournament, I'll pit Nomi against the fighters of the Maximum Tournament and shoot some ideas around, and you guys get to tell me how right or wrong, probably mainly wrong, I am. I'll discuss them in order of their proximity to the champion belt. So to start, let's talk about Andreas Reagan. Despite Baki's total domination of Reagan, this fight might prove to be difficult for Nomi. Baki has shown time and time again to be able to defeat the biggest and heaviest of fighters with the strength of a man physically their equal. But Nomi isn't Baki. Nomi was able to beat Keihaya, a man that appeared to be comparable to Nomi in both height and weight, after a brief, even clash with only a couple of overwhelmingly powerful strikes. Nomi was definitely the stronger of the two, but not by a significant enough degree to definitively say that Nomi could beat a man much larger than himself. In terms of height and weight, Nomi isn't likely taller or heavier than Nomi 2, as shown in this side-by-side depiction, so Nomi, when fighting Andreas, will have to face a man that is over a foot taller and nearly 250 pounds heavier. I think I can count on one hand the amount of fighters in Grappler Baki that could beat a man over 200 pounds heavier than themselves. Now, Keihaya was able to manhandle a bull that likely weighed over 2,000 pounds, but if a roughly 400 pound Keihaya can manhandle 2,000 pounds, Reagan could potentially manhandle an upwards of 3,500 pounds. That said, I think Nomi could beat him with a high level of difficulty. The three things Nomi has going for him are his devastating strikes, his experience in death matches, and his insane grip. Nomi has fought to kill before, so not only is he willing to kill Reagan to win, but he's also willing to push his body to fight until he literally dies. So that mindset and endurance will definitely give him a leg up. As far as his strikes, after his kicking match with Keihaya, he was able to land one kick that completely shattered Keihaya's ribcage. You have to figure that, even with 250 pounds of extra muscle to work through, the force generated by his strikes would destroy Reagan's body sooner rather than later, especially with the 100% right out of the gate fighting style of both Ancient and Grand Sumo. Reagan would likely be on the defensive against a smaller opponent with insane power, something he's shown not to be able to handle well. I would never doubt the endurance of a pro wrestler, a fighter specifically designed to take hits, but sumo wrestlers do the very same thing in a full contact sport against fighters weighing hundreds of pounds more than the average man or woman. Finally, the last nail in the coffin is Nomi's cold diamond-making grip. If he grabs Reagan, Reagan isn't getting out of that grip unless Nomi drops dead or whatever Nomi's holding is powder. Next is Dentarani Jitpika, the Nakmoi that drew blood from the powerful foe Zulu with his Muay Thai strikes. That said, Nomi is likely quite a bit taller and certainly much heavier. Jitpika would be completely out of his depth against such a durable and powerful foe. His strikes would be completely ineffectual against Nomi, and Nomi would defeat him with low difficulty, if any at all. Next is the kickboxing champion of the world, Rob Robinson. It sucks since he got his shit kicked in by Igari in the manga, even worse in the anime, and then nearly got killed by Doyle. But Rob is going to continue his L streak against Nomi, who's about as tall as him and roughly 220 pounds heavier. Rob couldn't even beat Igari, who was only 10 pounds heavier than him, so his lack of power or skill to deal with even a single weight class difference doesn't speak well to his chances against the 2 times heavier Nomi. Matobe! Matobe loses to all sumo wrestlers. That's it. Sergei Takhtarov took down Reagan fairly easily despite only being 253 pounds, so he's got the skill to take out someone much heavier. It's too bad that Sambo is a grappling style and he gets fucking destroyed by a roughly 25 to 50 metric ton Nomi grip. And I say that because Nomi's grip would likely be around half of Nomi 2's 100 metric ton grip, since Nomi II completely made a coal into a diamond with one hand, but Nomi could only do nearly that with both hands. Next up, the Iron Fist of Panama, Roberto Gerlain. He's dominated 3 different weight classes in boxing, so the guy's no slouch, but Nomi's just a different beast entirely. If Roberto can't defeat the roughly 6'6", 441-pound Yashizaru Jr., he's not beating the roughly 6'6", 441-pound Nomi no Sukune. The master of Japanese Kenpo, Bunoshin Inagi. A powerful mixed martial artist with good striking and grappling, and while he doesn't have the height or weight to stand up and bang with Nomi, standing at 5'7" and 165 pounds, he was able to avoid getting completely dog-walked by the 6'3", 366-pound Hanayama Kaoru, despite ultimately losing. I think he could give Nomi a decent challenge with his variety and but ultimately, I don't see him doing any better against what is essentially Hanayama 2.0 at this point in the series. A heavier brute force-based fighter with actual martial skill and a vastly superior grip. Next, the joint maniac Roland Eistaz. His joint fetish catch-as-catch-can wrestling could actually legitimately serve as a threat despite only being 247 pounds. If Roland could dismantle Nomi's joints, he'd be fucked regardless of his weight advantage, but not only are sumo wrestlers as proficient in grappling as they are striking, though this may not extend to ancient sumo as it's a seemingly strike-based version of modern sumo with only rudimentary grappling, but his grip would allow him to reverse or escape from any and all of Roland's grapple attempts. Moko Ri, the Flame Tiger of South Korea. This tactical and adaptable Taekwondo fighter has shown to have a strategic mind to evade his foes, and powerful Taekwondo kicks to dismantle them at a safe distance. His experience as a Marine allows him to stay liquid even under the worst kind of pressure. That said, the game is practically rigged from the start. Moko's tactics will likely keep him safe for a time, but the inevitable punch or kick that lands on him, or even a grab as a result of tanking an attack or bum rushing as Nomi is prone to lead with, will destroy Moko. Him being shorter isn't an issue since he primarily fights with his legs, which are innately longer than a person's arms, but him only weighing 185 pounds means Nomi can destroy the entire ribcage of somebody over 250 pounds heavier than him with relative ease. Nomi's striking power and durability entirely outclass the adaptive mind and fast, powerful kicks of the Flaming Tiger of South Korea. Kohei Hatanaka probably loses with low difficulty. He's shorter than Nomi, doesn't even weigh 200 pounds, and has to contend with Nomi's grip in everything he tries as a judoka. Mike Queen is a lesser version of Andreas Reagan. Height and weight certainly aren't everything, but they are a major aspect of a fight when Mike weighs less than 300 pounds. They are both primarily strength-based fighters, and Nomi's got a plus 100-pound advantage. New York's Man of Steel doesn't stand a chance. Sergio Silva was powerless against the 255-pound Jack and his proportionally powerful resistance to being taken to the ground. The heavier Nomi, with mitts that could make a naughty kid very rich on Christmas, will just as effortlessly defeat him. Jagata Sherman likely wouldn't fare any better against Nomi than Jitpika, but we can never truly know for sure since he got ogred. Well, he got beat up. I realized that being ogred has a different context after these most recent chapters of Bakido 2018. Minoru Yamamoto suffers from Nomi gripitis. His shoot wrestling is a majority grappling style with a minor mix in some striking, so not only does he have to deal with the Nomi grip, undoing all of his grapples and breaking his bones, but in terms of weight, he also doesn't even break 225 pounds. Richard Filth ain't called the toughest guy on earth for nothing. Weighing nearly 300 pounds at just shy of 6 feet tall, this fucking powerhouse unit shouldn't be underestimated as to how much punishment he can take. Being able to eat Doppo's strikes, as well as not only punish Doppo's body enough to make him instinctively defend himself, but to deal major damage to Doppo through Doppo's Sachin is an impressive feat. It goes without saying, however, that Richard is simply a Walmart brand Nomi. He weighs about 100 pounds less, and while he's been shown to be able to take damage better, he's never taken damage on the level of what Nomi is outputting. Furthermore, the damage required to put Nomi down would almost certainly far exceed the damage to put down a Sachin Doppo. By how much, I don't know, but it doesn't even matter as Richard wasn't even capable of doing that. At 6'4" and 306 pounds, the first-class wrestler Roger Harlan almost has the weight to be a striking contender against Nomi, but he's still 100 pounds short, and as a wrestler, he simply has no answer to the kind of pressure Nomi can apply with his mighty grip. Shinogi Kureha will not be an easy fight. The man excels in evasion, striking, and grappling. He can lift over 2,000 pounds, and he's killed a tiger with his bare hands. Add to that his anatomical knowledge and his dashin technique, which internally damages a foe, and Nomi just might have met his match. Nomi should still have the advantage in striking due to having over 100 pounds on Kureha, and grappling is simply a no-go zone with the Nomi boys, but it's a very real possibility that Nomi gets knocked out or is made unable to fight. I don't see Dashin being as effective on Nomi as it was on early Baki, more likely being as effective or less so than it was on Kosho. Kureha's real threat is his evasion ability and his ability to break bones through a person's skin and perfectly knock a person out. Bone breakage could be prevented by the Nomi grip, but only to some effect due to Kureha's maneuverability. The true threat lies in those palm strikes to the chin that can KO a fighter with ease. All in all, I do think Nomi wins due to having many more advantages like his grip and his weight, but it would likely be a mid to high level victory. Zulu is a powerful guy with the strength and reflexes to kill powerful beasts himself, but despite his strength possibly allowing him to keep up with the 100 to 200 pound heavier Nomi, his smaller frame likely won't help him to be able to take hits from Nomi. Not only is dodging not generally in this wild man's repertoire of fighting, but with speed to keep up with Keihaya, the man that kicks faster than the wind, his dodge attempts wouldn't likely amount to much. Kinryuzan is definitely an interesting match. The earnest Yokozuna rivals Nomi's height and is less than 100 pounds lighter, but the weight gap is still over 50 pounds. Kinryuzan is a much more technical Rikishi than Nomi, as Kinryuzan has stood to gain from 2,000 years of technical sumo knowledge, whereas the anything goes, fight to the death style of ancient sumo will definitely make Nomi the more generally versatile and vicious fighter. Kinryuzan may have mastered a plethora of palm strikes and throws, tested throughout thousands of years of use, but Nomi is decent at grappling, is proficient in both open and closed palm strikes, and far exceeds Kinryuzan's striking ability in strength, speed, and skill with his kicks. Sumo stamina is also pitiful at best compared to ancient sumo stamina, which had fighters that would fight for several days in a row. Overall, Nomi has a slight advantage in striking due to his slight weight advantage and versatility. Nomi can negate any of Kinryuzan's grapple attempts with his grip, circumventing his rudimentary grappling ability and negating Kinryuzan's specialty, his sumo grappling. And Nomi certainly has the stamina advantage. While Kinryuzan gives him a decent fight, Nomi should take this with medium difficulty. While Kato Kiyosumi certainly doesn't have the strength or build to make himself much of a challenge against Nomi, being much weaker than the likes of Doppo and Katsumi and only standing at 5'11 and 176 pounds, the Dangerous Lion of Shinshinkai has one advantage in his style that could level the playing field: the dirty tricks of his reckless karate style. That said, Yashizaru Jr., the creature that low-diffed Kato, was roughly comparable in size to its parent Yashizaru. The relevance of that is that Yashizaru and Nomi II are nearly identical in height and weight, with Nomi still being in the realm of Yashizaru Jr.'s size, and even comparable in strength and speed via scaling from Keihaya's stone lantern busting and wind speed kicks. Nomi should be able to defeat Kato in spite of his reckless karate with low difficulty as well. Now, as for Yashizaru Jr. himself, while Jr. may be the bigger of the two, the difference would be negligible considering the difference in skill and potentially speed. Jr. is likely still comparable to Nomi, but if I had to give speed advantage to one of the two, I'd go with Nomi due to Keihaya's feats of being able to do things like put out candles with the wind of his kicks, and destroy flies in mid-flight with his kicks. Nomi's durability and endurance should allow him to tank Jr.'s attacks like he did against Keihaya for the most part, and his strength should allow him to destroy Jr. faster than the reverse would be true. Finally, ancient sumo fighting skill should be a step above the basic animalistic fighting style of Jr. Hanayama Kaoru will absolutely give Nomi his toughest fight. As I was initially writing the script for this video, I had a somewhat basic idea of who Nomi could and could not beat, but with Hanayama I had no idea. Hanayama Kaoru, just like Kinryuzan, is comparable to Nomi in height and less than 100 pounds lighter. Three advantages Kinryuzan didn't have, however, are striking power, grip power, and durability and endurance. Just like Nomi, Japan's strongest brawler has shown to have striking power that far exceeds even his nearly 400-pound frame. As for who I would say is strongest, I would say that Hanayama's punches would be stronger than Nomi's punches, but Nomi's kicks would be stronger than Hanayama's punches. Next, their durability and stamina. Hanayama is practically peerless in his ability to take damage and stay in the fight, so I would give him the edge, as Hanayama has taken shots that would end the fighting careers of lesser men without blinking. That said, he's never fought several days in a row, so the stamina advantage goes to Nomi. Finally, grip strength. Nomi has gone practically uncontested in grip strength so far, but it should come as no surprise that, while I do think Nomi's grip strength is much better, Hanayama isn't completely outclassed. Honestly, as I wrote the script, I was starting to lean Hanayama. Hanayama outclasses Nomi in punches, and even though Nomi outclasses Hanayama with his kicks, all Hanayama would have to do is not allow the fight to remain at kicking range, which benefits him by not only negating Nomi's stronger tool, but being in punching range, making Hanayama the bigger damage dealer. Furthermore, cutting off kicking range isn't even that difficult. Hanayama would just have to pressure Nomi by continuously moving forward, something easily done with Hanayama's damage tanking style. As far as durability and endurance, in a fight like the one between Nomi and Hanayama, durability is absolutely more important than stamina. You can't sustain a fight if all of your bones are broken. So, Hanayama has the advantage in both dealing and taking damage, so that means Hanayama wins, right? What more is there to a fight? Well, Hanayama's doom in this fight is not dissimilar to his doom against Katsumi. It's a matter of style. Statistically, Hanayama can and should win, but he won't. The two things that Hanayama does that ruin the fight for him are his grip and being the standing man. If it comes to a battle of grips, like say the instance of Specs' fight with Hanayama, Nomi will, with some deal of effort, win. That loss of grip battle will put Hanayama in a very bad position. Hanayama would likely be winded from the hard-fought contest and vulnerable to the less winded Nomi, if even for just a moment. Which could be very bad when fighting a man that can almost turn coal into diamond with his bare hands. Also, his habit of not pressuring the opponent will cost him the striking advantage. Hanayama doesn't generally move towards his opponent, he just stands there until they stop attacking, or until they're open for an attack. That'll go very poorly for Hanayama considering Nomi's legs can completely shatter the ribcage of a man nearly 100 pounds heavier than him. Hanayama could probably take several of those kicks before taking on severe adverse effects, and he could probably even fight through the adverse effects to a point, but the entire fight is a downhill battle. Hanayama may win in our hearts, but Nomi wins with extremely high difficulty in our minds. I think Iron Michael could give Nomi a decent fight before going down with medium difficulty. Mike is a genius at evasion and striking, so he completely outclasses Nomi in evasion and striking skill. But skill can only take you so far against somebody who's twice your size. Michael could probably knock his shit good with his dumb strong punch power, but Nomi's kicks are harder and would devastate somebody half his weight. Add to that Nomi is surprisingly agile for his size, and Nomi just might even get his hands on Mike, which is a straight up game ender. Don't sleep on Kengo Masaki. He's a good grappler, taking down the much larger Mike Queen almost immediately with an arm lock. He can belt off over 20 strikes in like a second, and he even gave Jack a good fight until he was practically bled out and forced to fight in an uncomfortable, uncharacteristic way or risk bleeding to death / passing out, losing because of the style change. That means, despite fighting the 6'4", 255-pound Jack, the 5'9", 158-pound Kengo was keeping up. Now, Kengo's grappling is absolutely shut down by Nomi's grip, since Nomi's grip isn't something a human would want to risk having done to them. But Kengo should be as fast as or faster than Nomi, and can strike hard enough to close a gap over 100 pounds. Unfortunately, Kengo would only be half as effective against the plus 400-pound Nomi, and he certainly doesn't have the build to take shots that can destroy a man nearly 300 pounds heavier like Nomi destroyed Keihaya. Nomi may have some trouble with Kengo's speed and skill, but with his strength and durability advantage winning in the striking field, and his grip ending any chance of a grappling victory, Nomi's medium difficulty victory would be only a matter of time. Yu Amanai is an interesting case. He's proficient in unorthodox grapples that might work on Nomi, and his aerial combat might prove difficult to deal with for Nomi. To top it all off, Yu Amanai can predict many steps ahead against his opponent, so Nomi has a lot of cons to overcome. His pros are more of the same. Yu is only 196 pounds, so his striking power is vastly outdone by what Nomi can deal, and by what Nomi can take. That said, I'd give this to Nomi with medium difficulty. If Doppo can rip out all of Yu's toenails while in his unorthodox submission, Nomi should also be able to grab and crush Yu's entire foot, leaving him just slightly worse off than he was against Doppo. As for his flight and predictions, they both succumb to the same problem: stamina. Nomi can keep fighting for days, while Yu has exceptional stamina like any other fighter at this stage. Most fighters wouldn't be able to do something as intensive as stay airborne via constantly kicking their opponent with no break for more than, say, 10 minutes. Even if he doesn't wear himself out staying airborne, he can only use his predictions to avoid being steamrolled by Nomi for so long before he simply doesn't have the strength to evade, much less retaliate. In short, due to Yu's lack of tools that can actually put someone over 200 pounds heavier than himself down, he could avoid Nomi and hurt him for a long time, but he can't actually hurt Nomi enough to stop him and would eventually tuck her out. Before I discuss Kosho, I'd like to mention Kanji Igari and Chiharu Shiba quickly. Igari and Shiba are, along with Kinryuzan and Hanayama, some of the best at tanking damage or being a zombie that never stops getting up after getting knocked down. I'd say Igari is as good as or better than Nomi at tanking damage with his pro wrestling damage preparedness, and Shiba is certainly better at getting his shit kicked in, but continuing. That said, Igari may be stronger than Kinryuzan, but not enough for me to comfortably say that he could beat Nomi. Nomi also takes Igari medium difficulty due to canceling Igari's locks with his grip and overloading his preparedness to be hit with raw strength. Shiba loses via literally being killed. Nomi would likely kill Shiba due to the vast physical difference, the skill difference, and the willingness to do so as though it were second nature. And that's it. That's everyone that Nomi could actually beat. I held off on Kosho because I actually think that Kosho can beat Nomi. I suppose Nomi versus Katsumi is a bit contentious because Katsumi did beat Yashizaru Jr., but would have lost to Hanayama 3 times over. Since Katsumi beat the likely larger than Nomi Yasha Jr., but would have lost to the smaller than Nomi Hanayama, I'm more inclined to say Nomi would beat Katsumi, but my finite concrete take is inconclusive. As for everyone else, I'll quickly explain why I think Nomi cannot beat them. For Kosho, his perfected cord cutter doesn't leave time for Nomi to grapple him, so Kosho could literally blind him or sever the nerves in his arms and legs to defeat him with little difficulty. All Kosho would have to do is potentially tank a couple of hits, which should be difficult but not absolutely impossible. Retsu is so skilled in the evasion of attacks, getting hit would likely be a minor issue to concern himself with. Retsu also has ludicrous striking power, being able to launch Baki and Katsumi many meters away with his Tsunke. He'd likely be able to rival Nomi's striking power, similarly to Hanayama. The final nail in the coffin is his excessive use of pressure points, which would of course circumvent Nomi's mass. It certainly doesn't help that Retsu has 4 limbs, of which he can use to strike pressure points. Alexander Gallon literally cratered a concrete wall reinforced with steel and shook the entire underground arena with one shoulder check. Nomi could beat him in a grappling match, which is fairly detrimental to our wrestler Gallon, but Gallon knows boxing as well and is seemingly exorbitantly stronger than even his frame would let us believe. Even if we don't include that showing of strength, he certainly has power far beyond his frame, and his frame is already nearly half a foot taller than Nomi, and he's 372 pounds, less than 70 pounds lighter than Nomi. For reference, both Hanayama and Kinryuzan were less than 80 pounds lighter. Gallon can actually brute force win like Andreas Reagan would've had it been a real fight between a 700-pound man and a 400-pound man in real life rather than in grappler Baki. Doppo has a strong chance of winning twofold. As far as just plain Shinshinkai karate, Doppo's striking power could probably do some serious damage to Nomi, but Doppo's Orochi Ryu is the reason why he wins. His use of piercing edges, like his Nukite, Sukuto, and toe kick, can badly hurt Nomi despite his thick ass, and techniques like Roppa Geishi and Fumasatsu that break or dislocate bones would affect Nomi the same as anyone else. Goki Shibukawa just fucking wins. Aiki hard counters Sumo, Shibukawa is a proficient pressure point user, and he can predict all of Nomi's moves, just no. Jack is stronger than Gallon, more durable than Hanayama, roughly as fast as, or possibly even faster than Kengo, more skilled than Shibukawa, rivals Shiba in stamina and endurance, and can become exponentially physically more powerful by maxing. Nomi loses spectacularly, and likely won't do nearly as well against Jack as Alexander Gallon did. And finally, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Baki, despite his small frame, outstrips everyone in the tournament at their best quality, being as good as Jack or better in every regard. Nomi is outclassed in striking strength, speed, durability, endurance, and skill to the point that he might as well be a martial arts novice that is shorter and lighter than Baki. Nomi's grip does surpass everyone else's in the entire tournament, but against someone like Baki, someone with every other conceivable advantage, that'll only take you so far. And that's all without even considering the demon back. Well guys, that massive mouthful is my take on Nomi's chances in the Maximum Tournament and how well he'd do. Not bad at all. Nomi's results came out to him being able to take out roughly half of the Maximum Tournament. He may not be semi-finalist material, let alone champion material, but I definitely think Nomi would do Ancient Sumo proud as its representative. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, go ahead and slap that like button to let me know that you did. Let me know what you thought of the video in the comment section down below. Do you guys think I got it right, or do you guys think differently about the outcome of a match or two? Who do you guys want to see take on the Maximum Tournament next? I was thinking of either doing current Goki Shibukawa or Iwa Muniuchi from the Doppo Gaiden. Let me know which one you guys would like to see from those two, or who, if not either of them, down below. Well, I've been Chris Rocha, the YouTuber that keeps you safe and protected from boredom, and this has been Nomi no Sukune vs. the Maximum Tournament. Thanks for watching. Peace.
Up that